Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men. September 10th, Thomas Cranmer. Thomas Cranmer was a leader of the English Reformation, and he was the Archbishop of Canterbury during the reigns of 2 kings and 1 queen of England. Cranmer loved God and was sincere in his beliefs. His story is one of hope for the people who sometimes make mistakes. On this date, in 1533, Cranmer became godfather to the future Queen Elizabeth.
When success gets you slander, stand firm in the truth. When Cranmer became the Archbishop of Canterbury, he suddenly faced a slew of accusations. People started rumors saying he wasn't educated enough to be in such a high position in the country and in the church. One time, in an alehouse in Yorkshire, England, a fellow priest had been gossiping among his neighbors, no doubt enjoying the attention and the ability to make his neighbors laugh and the pleasure of being in the know. The priest claimed that Cranmer had as much education as a gosling. This was not the land of free speech, and in that time and place, that kind of talk landed the gossipy priest in prison. Worse, after 8 or 9 weeks of punishment, what the priest had said was reported to the Archbishop. Cranmer didn't seem at all threatened by the priest's idle talk, but the Archbishop was eager to put the rumors to rest. He got him out of prison, invited him to the palace, and then offered to let the priest quiz him. The gossipy priest could now get proof for himself of just how ill-educated Cranmer was. The priest accepted the invitation, it being a time and place when one did not turn down the invitation of an archbishop. He met Cranmer in the garden of Lambeth Palace, where the Archbishop was sitting under a vine waiting. Right off, brother to brother, Cranmer asked why the priest had said such hurtful words about him. The priest, eager for an excuse, admitted that it was probably the drink at the alehouse that had caused him to do it. Cranmer listened with respect, and he agreed that strong drink could loosen any man's tongue. But now that the priest was there, he could finally learn the truth about how educated Cranmer was. "You may be surprised to know what learning I have," Cranmer said. "Begin in grammar, if you will, or else in philosophy and other sciences, or even divinity." But the priest knew he couldn't question anyone in those areas. He replied, "I have no understanding of the Latin tongue. I only speak English." "Well, that's fine," Cranmer responded. "There will be no questions in Latin. Perhaps a Bible quiz will suffice. Surely, as a priest, you know the scriptures," he said. Cranmer asked if the priest had read the Bible. Of course, he was a priest. He nodded, "Yes, I do that daily." This wouldn't be so bad, the priest thought to himself. "Who was David's father?" Cranmer asked. The priest hesitated. "Well, I'm not sure, Your Grace." "Who was Solomon's father then?" The priest answered that he didn't really know that either. By this time, Cranmer had already proven that he knew much more than the priest. The king wouldn't have appointed him to be archbishop if he wasn't well versed in the scriptures. Cranmer looked at the priest, scolding him gently as a fellow minister who wanted to make sure his brother had learned his lesson. "God amend you," he said, "and from henceforth learn to be an honest man, or at least a reasonable man." The priest nodded again and obviously felt very sorry. He had been wrong to spread such a false and hurtful rumor. That day, the Archbishop sent the priest not back to prison, but back to his home. James 3:5-6 says, "So also the tongue is a small thing, but what enormous damage it can do. A great forest can be set on fire by one tiny spark. And the tongue is a flame of fire, It is full of wickedness and poisons every part of the body. And the tongue is set on fire by hell itself and can turn our whole lives into a blazing flame of destruction and disaster. Have you ever faced slander or gossip from people who didn't celebrate your success? How might you deal with words meant to hurt you? When success gets you slander, stand in the truth and find a peace.
Thank you for listening to today's story. Every day of the year, our hope is to inspire you with real-life stories of faithful men who have gone before us. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Join us tomorrow for another story at 365christianmen.com.